I'll let you know what I know about the llorona from the time that I was growing up. There's been a lot of versions of the llorona since then. But the one that I know starts off with this lady that was married. She was happily married and she had two children. And then her husband died. And then she became lonely and she decided that she wanted to get married again. And so she found this boyfriend, but she did have two children from her first marriage. And she wanted to be happy and start all over. And so what happened, she met this guy and then they started dating and then the guy wanted to marry, but he found out later that she had two children from the first husband and he was a very selfish man. So he decided he didn't want her with the two kids, but she was in love with him and she wanted to marry him. So what happened was that he told her that he didn't want the kids. So to avoid losing him, she decided that she was going to take her kids to the river and just throw them in there and just let them drown. So she did that one day. They just drowned. She threw them in the river and they drowned. And while the river was taking them, the current was taking them, the kids were screaming, "Mama, mama, mama," because they wanted their mother, and the mother wouldn't jump in to get them. And then she went back to the guy and she told the guy that she was by herself now, that she didn't have children anymore. And so the guy said, "Well, it's too late because I already have somebody else that I'm going to get married to because I didn't want you with the kids." So that made her feel real bad. And so what she did, she started crying and she started going back to the river and she wanted her kids back, but it was too late. The kids had already floated away somewhere else. And so this lady, she would go to all the rivers in the world and she would go looking for her kids and she would hear the little kids cry, "Mama, mama, mama," because that's the last thing that she heard when she threw them in the river. So when she would go to all the rivers in the world, she would hear the little boys, the little boy and the little girl scream, "Mama, mama, mama." But, of course they weren't there anymore. And so now, because she goes to all the rivers in the world looking for her children, generation after generation, people are still, they still claim that they hear the llorona. Llorona means, I guess, the crier. She's crying. The llorona in Spanish means the crier. They can still hear her cry for the children. And apparently, when people are drinking and they're having, like, talking about spooky stories along the banks of the rivers and all that, they hear the llorona. And they say they cry. She cries, and then they get scared and they run off.
Well, experience myself, no. But I've heard a lot of stories, and they're pretty gruesome, bad.
Would you mind telling us one that you were told?
Well, what I understand is that this lady in Mexico was married. She lost her husband somewhere or another, and she ended up having two little girls and one little boy. And as time went on, she fell in love with this other man. But this man didn't want to have kids. So she decided to kill her kids. And there was a river flowing near her house. So she took her kids over there and put them in the river and let them drown. Why? Because she wanted to marry this guy that didn't want kids. Right? So apparently, yeah, she got caught. They discovered that she killed her own kids and she got sent to prison. She didn't marry that guy, and she spent a bunch of time, bunch of years in prison, and all she could think was about her kids, that she killed them for nothing. Okay, it happened like that. Later on, when she was older, she was out of prison, but she was old already, so she couldn't have another life like marry somebody else because she was too old. she felt so bad about her kids that she would go back. Remember, the river was next to her house, so she would go back to her house. She went back to her house, and at night she would like just wander out and go by the river and start yelling, "Mis hijos, mis hijas." The neighbors would hear her. Well, time went on and she died. She died. She, of course, never found her kids because she drowned them, right? On purpose. Well, the neighbors, after she died, the neighbors started hearing her at night. And they said that it was her ghost. And you know what she would say?
A ghost?
Yeah. He would say, "Where are my kids? Mis hijos, mis hijas." That's why you need to be near me all the time.
Why?
It's a spirit that even now, right now, there could be a llorona right next door to you. And they say that Susan Smith, was that her name? Susan Smith? Well, she killed her 2 kids. She put them in a car. She drove up to a lake or something, and she drove the car in. She got out, but her kids drowned in the car.
Got blood?
And then again, she did it because she wanted to
And got
marry
blood?
this.
Blood?
Yeah, she married this guy. I mean, she wanted to marry this guy that she had fallen in love with, and she ended up killing her kids for that. And she's in prison right now. Maybe when she gets out and when she gets old, she's gonna feel the same way as the original llorona, and she might become the next llorona. And there could be a llorona next year or 2 years from now in the future. So you all need to be careful with your kids. You know, you love them, you stay with them forever. Okay? Well, I understand there's a lady in San Felipe that she says she heard the she lives in San Felipe, and I know her personally, but you know, when they talk about the llorona and that they saw the llorona or they heard the llorona, sometimes it's hard to believe. But when it happens to you, then it's another story. Well, what I understand is it's a very popular story for parents to tell their kids, and especially on the Mexican side of humanity. Anyway, I think they tell their kids because they want their kids to behave. They want their kids to behave, but they also want them to learn about life. That there are bad people out there. Not only will they kill their own kids, but they can kill anybody. And in Halloween, a lot of kids and parents, they dress up as La Llorona.
Every state has its own La Llorona story. States like New Mexico, Arizona, California, it's even here in Texas. As long as you have water, you will always have a story of La Llorona. Hi, I'm Gloria May, and thank you for watching this segment of La Llorona. La Llorona is told by many, especially in the Hispanic culture. It's a ghost story of murder, regret, and sorrow.